Azalea Banks starts to realize, and so will many others. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim and Hawashai, Bahashim, Chahak, Badashim, double honors to the elders and apostles that great millstone. Well, peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect. Shalom Barakatum. And this is just a lesson, real quick, in transit. Regarding, the most recent Azalea Banks comments, all over Twitter, he seemed confused. And see, this is what happens when you're like Apostle Hart said, she's for lack of a better term, a ditz. She's kind of an airhead, walking around aloof. She's from Harlem, as the point Apostle Hart brought out, but she still doesn't know that that's where basically One West came to life, man. Okay, that was basically ground zero to the vast majority of the tribes you see on the highways and byways. Okay, to start the modern, what they would call modern Hebrew Israelites, but we know that this is the prophecy of Ezekiel 37, and this is what our enemies are terrified of. Okay, you can pair up Ezekiel 37 with Revelation the 11th chapter, okay, when it says those two witnesses, all right, those two olive trees, they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell upon them that saw them. Okay, and why is fear going to fall on them? Because what we're saying is going to be proven inevitably to be true. Okay, and as the scriptures say, you can't do anything for the truth against the truth before it. I always butcher that scripture. There's nothing you can do against the truth, man. The truth just is what it is. And this is why it takes so much chaos magic and energy to maintain the current facade and Ponzi scheme that we have going on. Okay, because that is what it is. Esau does not really own this house. Okay, this nigga's a fugitive. He's holed up here. He's squatting and he's doing whatever he can to stay. Okay, and what's instrumental and that is the theft of our identity. Okay, it wasn't enough to just tell us we weren't those people. They had to assume our identity to make sure. Okay, and so it makes all the sense in the world that the people claiming to be the people will really be our what do you call it? Our arch nemesis, our enemy. Okay, because these people have put the most hurt on us by far than any other nation. Okay, all the other nations were Confederate. They all joined in. They're all going to have their piece of slavery. But Esau Edom, he's the chief one, man. And so I titled this Azalea Banks Starts to Realize, because she's getting a lot of heat going back and forth with these small hats online, man, which that's a waste of your time. They're never gonna, that's too big of a bubble for you to burst. They're just not gonna receive it. It's just gonna be caught in a dissonance. Their whole way of life, their whole MO of why they feel any sense of pride or any sense of security is tied to them stealing our identity. So they're just not gonna receive it. Plus, they're just Edomites. They're not right anyway, man. So doing a back and forth with them, is unwise. But it is still edifying in some way for those that have ears to hear that of the behavior of these people. Okay, and how afraid they are for just one Negro, developing the ability to think critically. They have an issue with that, because that's how they win. That's how they kept so many Jakes down. That's how they took down Gad. Okay, they played these mind games. All right, because straight up they could not beat Gad. They could not beat Judah. And so it's a coordinated effort of mind games, getting other nations involved. Okay, getting members on our side to sell out. All right, it was a mixture of all of those things, to basically take us down. And so whenever you see one of those things failing, like we don't have the sword, we don't have the means of fighting, we don't have an army, right? But we do, one of the things that we do have that it's always a fear of them is our identity, us waking up, just us knowing terrifies this guy, man, okay? He is utterly terrified at just the fact that we might know or realize one day that we're the Israelites, man, you know? And so other people are going to come to the same conclusion because everybody I see is now questioning this guy. Kim Iverson's questioning him. You know, she runs an alternative news show, which I believe she's a Jake. She looks like a Moabite, okay, or from Vietnam. Sabrina, you know, on Sabi Sab's podcast, okay, Jimmy Dore. Everybody's like looking at y'all now and wondering, like, what do you mean y'all are the people? You know, I understand y'all are Jews, but most people, it's starting to dawn on them that, look, y'all, there's a difference between being the ethnic people group and just converting to the religion, okay? And now, okay, people are starting to separate these things. They're starting to separate, you know, being a so-called Jew even from so-called Zionism, or not so-called, it is Zionism, okay? I guess I can say so-called because they're not really of Zion. And so now people can delineate now, okay? And this is how chaos magic works, okay? Chaos, they ball everything up into confusion where only one person knows what's going on. Everybody else confused, and by the time the smoke clears, you know, all of the assets and understanding are on this side, and everybody else is left holding the bag. You know, that's how chaos magic works. You have to confuse and confound things, okay? And that's how the whole thing works. That's why he wants to conflate things, okay? And he'll do the opposite or provide clarity, you know, when it suits him. You know, like he'll conflate Italian, German, okay, English all together under white, okay? But when you start talking about, you know, what white people did as a whole, as a collective, you know, the English are like are blaming the French, and the French was like, I ain't do that, you know. They start pointing the blame, you know, and this is no different when they conflate, you know, their ethnic group with their religion, okay? And they go into the Bible and quote scriptures too, man. You know, that shows you this is Satan. This is a satanic power we're dealing with. Because only Satan will be bold enough to go into the scriptures to prove, you know, his wickedness, just like Esau did, you know, way back when, which they are Edomites, but you know, there's a distinction between the two. Okay, Salakia. But yeah, Azalea is going off. She's arguing with these small hats back and forth, you know, and it's quite clear they don't even want her talking about it. Okay, they don't want you questioning things. All right, they don't want you, you know, like back in 2020 when they were trying to get you to get on a certain program. All right, they told you don't do your own research. They literally said that, man. Just trust the doctors. That's what they said. Don't do your own research. And you can see a lot of them people that run those companies, same people, by the way. Now, you can tell now when Azalea Banks is trying to, like, you know, well, wait a minute, what happened to the Ethiopian Jews? And she's asking about all of this stuff. You know, they're telling her she don't know what she's talking about. Okay, that we know, we got the answers. You don't know about our people, this and this and that. But the vast majority of them come out of Eastern Europe. You know, so they have gaps in their history, but the history of that region can easily be looked up, man, about what happened and who were who. What did those people look like? The Bible is the principal foundation in terms of historical accounts of all the people of the Levant region, which all of the major empires passed through that region, and the Bible has information on all of them. Okay, all of them. You know, so and they don't fit the Bible. Okay, they don't fit the scriptures. They don't fit the Holy Scriptures. That's the number one thing, and this is the thing that worries them. This is why they don't even want Azalea questioning them, because a couple questions is all it really takes for their whole shit to crumble. You know, for their whole empire to fall, locked in. You know, so we saw the same thing with Kyrie. We saw the same thing, you know, with Kanye, I guess you can say, in a way. Which Kanye, you know, he's really just a demon, you know. But you're going to start seeing more and more and more of this. And see, this is why they had Larry Ellison buy TikTok, and they had his son buy Paramount, okay? David Ellison, he bought Paramount, and now they're looking at possibly buying, what is it, Warner Brothers Discovery. I heard it was a rumor they might buy them as well. Why are they doing this? Okay? Because people are asking too many questions, okay? And they're really just common sense questions, but because they're the Ponzi scheme, the rules that they come up with is so flimsy and thin, all right, they can't even handle basic questions. You know, they don't fit any prophecies or nothing in the book. So we're in those times where the truth, as the scriptures say, the truth that was so oft put out shall flourish. That was so long without fruit. You know, it's getting ready to flourish, and it already is. But it's when I say flourish, I mean it's the seeds have been put out there, okay. But the seeds have not taken root everywhere. You know, in the mind, in the soil, in the minds of the people, okay. But it's starting to now, and so now they're gonna have to do something drastic, man. Okay, they want everybody into AI. That's what I believe AI is. It's just the left-hand intelligence of Esau Edom. Okay, people are already addicted to their smartphones to the point where they Google Maps everywhere. They Google everything. Okay. A lot of people can't do basic math in their head because they just go to their phone so much and pull out the calculator. You know, the smartphone, they destroy your mind, your ability to think. Okay, and so that's why they got you addicted to them, because they're ultimately they're gonna snuff out the truth if the Lord doesn't come back. Okay, when you're gonna go into AI is gonna sound all nice and eloquent and intelligent. Okay, but it's going to be filled with falsehoods, because you're not going to be able to challenge or know any better. Nobody is going to be able to access books. They've already made a lot of powerful books of information very difficult to obtain, to get. You know, the water of the Spirit is on, you know, some of the elders and bishops to acquire some of these books and hold on to them. You know, but he's getting scared, man, and so there's going to be more to come. All right, and at the end of the day, he knows he's got to make this move because too many big name celebrities are starting to talk. You know, they're starting to talk too much, and it's becoming higher and higher in frequency. And we all know that they're talking behind the closed doors. They all basically know that they're Israelites at this point. Whether they receive it or not, you know, that's up to them. But they all know. You know, the truth has been preached. The gospel has been preached. Okay, Matthew 28. And 19, which vocab breaks down wrong. Okay, we've done our job, but our job now is just to push. We're going to continue to push because it's about our salvation. Okay, because the Lord is already going to save who He's going to save anyway. That the elect are going to make it no matter what. You know, so we just got to remember these things. So I'll end it there, man. Lord willing, this is edifying. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rachak Shalom. Yashro.